Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Thursday edition of the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcasting Network. My name is Chris Halicke, running it solo today. Greg McAfee covering Pirates, and it's kind of an interesting day to be doing it. Happy opening day of the NFL season. The first game of the season is tonight. Ravens, Chiefs. I'll be watching it for sure. Definitely excited to watch it. Definitely excited to watch some football that actually matters. I got some guys on my fantasy teams that are going. I'm excited about it. But of course, that is not the news that Steelers fans are interested in right now. The news that everybody's interested in is what the heck is going on with Russell Wilson, as Michael says here. This is going to be interesting. Russell Wilson. Announced by Mike Tomlin today as a limited participant in today's practice and Thursday's practice at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Said his calf tightened up on him. It is the same calf that he injured during training camp, at the start of training camp, pushing a sled as part of the strength and conditioning test that all players go through. The Steelers have a new strength and conditioning staff this year. And so the conditioning test itself was different. Not only hearing that quarterbacks were pushing sleds, but even just the length of it. For example, like media usually waits around for Mike Tomlin to talk after that first day. And we waited a lot longer than we normally did. So it was obviously a more intensive test than it was before, but Russ obviously injured his calf doing that, and they proceeded with an abundance of caution throughout training camp. For the first 2 weeks, barely did much of anything. Finally got some actual meaningful reps kind of during that final week. During the preseason, it became first game of the preseason, he didn't play. Second game, he was able to play 5 series, but the offense didn't do much of anything. Russ was kind of along that too. You didn't really see much of Russ. It was a very, very bland, vanilla version of Russ. Final preseason game, he only played 1 series, but it's really all he needed to play because, well, they went down the field and scored pretty efficiently. And, but here we are. It's Thursday. The Steelers play on Sunday. They're 3 days away from their season opener. 1 more practice to go after today. And Russ injures his calf or aggravates his calf. I've gone through a couple of different ways that I can try to decipher what's going on here because I really don't know what to think. Because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this was a situation in which there's been some sort of there's a theory out there that the Russ calf injury during training camp was overblown, that it was almost done to get a really good look at Justin Fields in training camp. It's plausible. It's, I don't know if I necessarily believe it. And today kind of, proves to me that maybe that wasn't the case. And maybe, just maybe, this calf injury has been way more serious than anyone is letting it on to be. Because Russ has denied that it's a big deal. Mike Tomlin, even as recently as today, he was asked straight up, do you see this as a long-term issue? And Mike just said no. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's just enough in which they just need to sideline him. Just make sure that they are not overly testing that calf, in which it does become a very, very long-term thing. But maybe, just maybe, this actually is a more serious injury than people think, and that anyone's let on. I don't know. It's hard to tell. And right now, it pretty much is a guessing game. But whenever a guy injures the same part of the body, especially when you're talking about soft tissue like this, like a groin, a hamstring, a calf, these are tricky injuries. And if there's an aggravation, even if it is the slightest little bit of an aggravation, this could be something serious. Maybe I'm just speaking too soon. Maybe the scans that they're going to do either today or tomorrow come back and everything's hunky-dory and he's able to play Sunday. But I have my doubts. Now, DK was on the south side with me today, and while I was outside in my Tomlin scrum, DK was in the locker room and saw Russ walk from his stall to the players' showering area, which is, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 yards at the furthest, and said that there was nothing to say. Actually, I'll read you verbatim what he said. He put it in our Steelers feed earlier today. I don't want to put anything out there that's not exactly what he said. So I'm just gonna let's see. He said, "I just saw Russell Wilson here in the locker room, and for what it's worth, he was walking perfectly fine. Not making a diagnosis here or anything, just saying." So, but maybe part of this. So here's the, and I'll get to your comments here in just a second. But I'm trying to make sense of this here, because right now there's a lot of questions and almost no answers. Based off of what I've seen in practice, and I'm going all the way back to training camp, I'm going off of what I've seen on the south side, what I've seen in the 2 preseason games in which he played. He doesn't look like a guy. You can almost tell when a guy is playing a little bit limited. Okay? Anybody who's been an athlete, who's played a sport in which you've had an injury that is limiting your ability. You know what I'm saying? Like, most recently for me, I play hockey on the side, and I took a slap shot off the foot, didn't break it, but definitely bruised it. Very, very painful. Did not really fully go away. And even to this day, like if I go for a run or something like that, I can still feel it a little bit. And the first couple of times that I stepped on the rink and tried to play, I was absolutely thinking about it. Because when you play a sport like hockey, one of the things that you don't think about doing is skating. You think about a lot of other things, but skating is not one of them. And it's kind of the same thing when you're playing football or basketball or any sport in which you have to run or cut. You just react and you do. And he just didn't look like a guy who was playing without like a guy who was playing without limitations. He looked like a guy. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket. And not saying that Russell Wilson's ever been the best pocket passer. He just didn't look like a 12-year vet, even in preseason. And so I have my concerns that this is a more serious injury than it actually is. I'm not saying that this is like some sort of season-ending IR situation, Joe Burrow situation. Maybe the Steelers are just, it's bad enough in which they are trying to be as overly cautious as possible so that this doesn't become a Joe Burrow situation. But the fact of the matter is that he got back to being a full participant and has been now for multiple weeks. And here he is aggravating the same injury. To what extent, we don't know. Maybe it's just back to where it was at the start of training camp, in which Russ said, if I'm playing games at this stage, I'm playing. So maybe He does play Sunday. But I don't know. Question here, Chris, could you see Tomlin exercising even more caution having Field start? Yes, I do think that is a very real possibility. In fact, if you were asking me to bet right now, I would bet Justin Fields starts on Sunday. Just given the nature of the injury, the fact that this happened on Thursday, the fact that Friday is typically a lighter practice. This is not going to be a situation in which Russ is going to be able to go out there and do a full-blown practice that the Steelers do on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Even if he is a limited participant in that, I don't feel great about it. If Russ does not practice, it's not a good sign. So we'll get an answer. So if you're looking for a timeline tomorrow of when we might have an actual answer before the official game status is declared by 4 p.m. Eastern, which is a mandate across the NFL, if you're going to be looking for an answer, it's going to be, so the way things work with the media there is that there is a period at the very beginning in which we are allowed to take pictures, to shoot video, so on and that's at the very beginning of practice. Now, we're not able to post it or tweet it or put it on YouTube or put it in our feeds or anything like that until after practice concludes. So practice concludes tomorrow, I believe, at like 12:45. So if you're looking for a time, check our Steelers feed on DKPittsburghSports.com around 12:45. Because if Russ isn't even on the field, or if we see him on the field and he's not, obviously not participating, if he's standing off to the side, not wearing a helmet, that is going to let you know, all right, he's probably not participating in practice, and that's probably going to line up Justin Fields to start. Also, here's another really very obvious tell. Russ was supposed to speak to the media today, and the quarterback speaks every week. Every quarterback is different. Ben always spoke on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, that era, the past couple of seasons, they've been Wednesday guys. Russ is apparently a Thursday guy. So he was going to speak Thursday. He was going to speak today after practice. Obviously, this happens during practice. The PR department called an audible, said quarterback's going to talk Friday. And there you go. So if Russ participates in practice tomorrow, I would expect him to be the quarterback to talk after practice. If Justin Fields is the one who addresses the media, I think there's your answer. So Antonio asks, do you feel that Fields has gotten enough reps to start and execute the game plan? Yes. I don't know at what point. I do know, but I can't say. Not until I get it confirmed. But obviously, they said that Russ got injured in the middle of practice at some point during practice because they said it tightened up on him. Thus, Justin Fields would then step in and get first-team reps after that. That's just the nature of the depth chart. I'm not breaking any rules by saying that. If Russ cannot practice tomorrow, he will get all of the first-team reps. And even then, there is a lot of the time whenever they are going through the team periods, and especially when the offense is going up against the scout team defense, the backup quarterback will get some reps in there sometimes. And I can just confidently tell you that, yes, Justin will have gotten enough reps to execute the game plan. So I don't think that there's any concern about that. B-Phil says Sunday, 1 p.m. There's the answer. We can know the answer. Like I said, whoever speaks Friday, whoever speaks tomorrow, that's a really good indication because the team always tries to give the media the starting quarterback for that week. You know, if you remember back to whenever Kenny was having his injuries, whether it was Mitch, whether it was Mason, whoever it was filling in, that was who they tried to get to speak to the media that week. They tried to get the starting quarterback. Russ was the obvious guy because he's the number one quarterback on the depth chart. If he's not the one talking, that's a really good indication of who's going to start Sunday. There's something in here that I wanted to get to. I've been seeing this play out and this kind of take up the comment section, not only here, but also in our Steelers feed, in the story that we have on DKPittsburghSports.com right now on, Russ's injury. Avery says, is Tomlin playing more mind games with Raheem Morris? Raheem seemed to dismiss the Fields package idea. I don't think that this is a gamesmanship thing at all. I'm going to very strongly shoot that down. I'm going off of what I've seen with my own eyes. And what I've seen with my own eyes tells me that Russ has been very limited. Even whenever he's gotten back to full participation and playing in games, I'm not seeing the same Russ. Not that I'm expecting to see the guy who won the Super Bowl 11 years ago. But he's still, at 35 years old, you can still be very athletic. You can still move. He can still throw the football. I'm not worried about that. It's about the ability to play outside the pocket, to get outside the pocket, to be able to move. And that is really important for a guy like Russ because that's how he's made his living. That's what's going to be what gets him in the discussion for Canton whenever he retires, is his ability to play hero ball outside the pocket. That is what's made Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson. And if he's not that guy, he's very, very limited. He calls himself Mr. Unlimited. No. He is not looking, he's looking like anything but Mr. Unlimited right now. Another injury that popped up today. I don't want to just spend the entire show talking about Russ. There was some other things from today. The good news is, before we get to it, B-Phil says Russell Wilson is not Hall of Fame material. I very, very much would argue with that. He has built a good enough resume to at least gain consideration, and he will gain consideration. He will be at least a semifinalist. 100%. I wholeheartely disagree with that. I'm not saying that he's going to get in, and I don't even know if I would vote him in. But just to completely automatically write him off, no way. No way. Go look at his numbers, man. Some other injury issues. Sebastian Sanchez, some good news and bad news. I'll get the bad news first. What about Darnell Washington? Do you know the severity of his knee injury? So the Thursday practice report, 2 new names on it. There were 4 names initially. On Wednesday's report, there were all 4 names that we were expecting. All 4 names were listed by Mike Tomlin at the beginning of the week. Those names were Roman Wilson. 2 R Wilsons on the team. That's going to be fun. Roman Wilson, Corey Trice Jr., Jalen Warren, and Troy Fautanu. Obviously, also Isaac Seumalo, but we kind of knew he was going to be out. And also Logan Lee, he was on there too. So the 4 that I'm talking about, though, are Roman Wilson, Trice, Jalen, and Troy Fautanu. They were all limited on Wednesday. 3 of the 4, all except for Roman Wilson, improved to full participation today. That's the good news. And so the bad news is that there were 2 new names. Russ was obviously one of them. And then the second one here, Sebastian brings up Darnell Washington was the other. He went from not being on the injury report at all on Wednesday to being a DNP, did not practice on Thursday. That is a significant addition. And I think if he's a DNP again on Friday, he won't play, even if he's listed as questionable. That's typically not a good sign if a guy participates in practice and all of a sudden becomes a DNP, did not practice for multiple days, and ends the week that way. That's usually not a good sign. I don't know the severity of the injury. I wish I had more answers for you. But unfortunately, no, that we don't know the severity of it. Like I said, he practiced Wednesday. I saw him on the field Wednesday. I saw him in the locker room Wednesday. It seemed like everything was fine. So, yeah. But in terms of the way it is now, he's going to be another guy I'm watching for on Friday. I am very confident, especially with all three being moved up to full participation, that Trice, Jalen, and Faltone will all dress on Sunday. I still have my doubts about Faltone actually starting. But in terms of them dressing at the very minimum, I do think that all three of those guys will dress. Whether they don't have any game designation or if they're listed as probable or even questionable. Ramon Wilson, I think, is going to be one of those guys who's listed as questionable. And then tomorrow is going to be a really big day. We know that Isaac Samuel is going to be out. Logan Lee most likely is going to be out with his calf injury. But if I had to guess right now, like I said, the three that moved it to full participation, they'll play. Ramon Wilson will probably be questionable unless they just see him as limited and they're just like, you know what, we're not going to push it. We're not going to test it. We'll just deem him out. That wouldn't surprise me either. But then really big day for Russ and Darnell Washington for sure. This debate. Okay. B-Phil says Ben was better than Russ. And then Mark says Wilson could not carry Big Ben's jockstrap. Facts. At what point did I say that Russell Wilson was better than Ben Roethlisberger? I never said any such thing, and nor do I believe such thing. Ben is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I said that Russ will at least get Hall of Fame consideration, and that it's not a guarantee that he'll get in. I think that tells you exactly what I think. Mark says, it seems like there are a lot of calf injuries. Well, that seems fair. I think it's just those two, though. I think it's just Russell Wilson and Logan Lee. Yep. Those are the only two. Ramon Wilson has an ankle. We knew that. Corey Trice with the groin. We knew that. Jalen Warren with the hamstring. Isaac with the pec injury. And then Faltone and Darnell Washington both with knee injuries. And so Russ had the calf, and Logan Lee had obviously had the calf too. Logan Lee's is definitely more significant. I'm kind of surprised he wasn't placed on IR, designated to return, but maybe it's because they can only do that like for only two players to start out. Then maybe that's why they didn't do it. I don't know. We'll see though. I don't know. Maybe he can get in there eventually. Let's get to some of your comments here. Michael says, this feels almost planned. Fields got most of the reps in preseason line, and the line is banged up. Calf feels a little funny, playing it safe. I get it. I understand the conspiracy theory angle of, hey, this does seem like it seems like Justin was given all these opportunities. I just don't think that that's the way Mike Tomlin operates. He likes playing mind games with the media. No doubt about that. He likes playing mind games when it comes, but with his own players, I don't think so. I don't think he's actually limiting a player's reps just for gamesmanship purposes. Even a vet such as Russ, I just don't see that being the case. That's not Mike Tomlin. That's just not Mike Tomlin. I especially for the length of time that he's done it. First couple weeks of training camp, to do it while you're in the middle of preparation for the first game of the season, which is not at all a surefire win. If anything, I don't feel very good about this game. I'll give an actual prediction tomorrow. But I don't feel good about this game. And this is not a just chalk it up as a win. To do that right in the middle of your preparation for this team, I don't see that. Let's see. Rick. Over under on Falcons right tackle McGrary. Holding penalties. He puts the over under at 0.5. I would put over at least one. Mark asks, you're gonna have to clarify. There's like 5 Wilsons on this team. Says, is Wilson healthy to play linebacker and special teams? I would assume you're talking about Peyton Wilson, especially since you mentioned linebacker. Peyton Wilson is, he hasn't been on the injury report at all recently. So I see no reason why Peyton Wilson would play, wouldn't play. So yeah, Peyton Wilson's going to play, not unless for whatever reason, knock on wood, that he gets injured on in practice tomorrow or anything like that. He's going to play. So I don't see anything there. I know he kind of dealt with a little tiny thing there for a little bit, but he's going to play. He's not a concern. Let me hit a couple more comments here real quick before we wrap this up. Let's see here. Robert says, "Did you watch the new Ben's new podcast?" I did not yet. I did see that he at least put one out. Cool to see that they're at least doing them again. But I have not had a chance. Oh, here's a good question about the game. Rick asks or says, Zack Robinson runs a tons of 11 offense. That means personnel or 11 personnel, which means one tight end, one running back, or one running back, one tight end. It says, what will our D play against it? I would assume a lot of nickel. You get a lot of nickel. You can line up a number of different ways. You can have Beanie Bishop be your slot corner. You can have the 3 safety package in which KZ and Fitz are Minka are back, and then you have Deshaun Elliott kind of closer to the line, much like when the Steelers ran it before. Terrell Edmonds was that guy a little bit closer to the line, playing in the box, in the slot, whatever. If you want to go with a bigger nickel, you can also, like I said, you also go with Beanie Bishop out there. I expect to see a lot of nickel defense, and they should be able to run quite a bit of it now with the personnel that they have, especially at linebacker. You get into passing situations, you can have Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson out there. Those are 2 guys who can move. Those are 2 guys who can run. They can take away a lot of space. That's what I would expect to see. But overall, my concern here is not and that's Bied ask a quick question, and then I'm going to wrap this up. That's Bied asks, will Pat Freiermuth have a big game? My concern is on the offensive side of the ball, and this was even before Russ aggravated his calf today. My concern was on the offensive side of the ball. I don't like some of the matchups up front, especially with the line being a makeshift line the way it's been. They're going to double George. They have a really good safety tandem in Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates. They can limit Pat Freiermuth's ability and his impact. So another receiver is going to have to step up, or they're going to have to find a way to run the football. That might be their way into possibly unlocking the Atlanta defense, is by establishing the run and then utilizing play action to open up some things. But I just have my doubts. I don't trust this line against Atlanta's front. And then finally, really quick, final question, and then I'm going to go ahead and end this thing. Daniel asks, Muth contract update. There is no update as of now. I still believe, and I had a source tell me a couple days ago that a deal will get done. So until I'm told otherwise, I am going to believe that. So that's what I'm going to leave this with until we meet again tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Southside Beat. Hopefully a little bit earlier tomorrow. And either way, we will break down the Atlanta Falcons a little bit more here on the podcast. There will be an all-encompassing breakdown of the Falcons on DK Pittsburgh Sports tomorrow as we restart our next opponent series on the site. That will be your complete breakdown of the team. But either way, we'll talk about the game more tomorrow. We'll obviously react to what happened with the injury report, what happens at practice tomorrow. We will react to all of that as well. So in the meantime, catch you guys on the flippity flip. You guys have a great night. Enjoy the first NFL game of the season tonight. Ravens Chiefs. Excited to watch it. Just enjoy the fact that football's back, baby. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.